Calculation groups contain settings that can be used to run BOM calculations. These include cost price model, sales price model, and warnings. Calculation groups assigned to items enable you to specify how a cost or sales price of components outlined by the calculation group is sourced for the calculation. It also enables the ability to configure the warning conditions which prompt you during the BOM calculation process. When the selected components can be potential sources of calculation errors. Calculation groups are prerequisite to BOM calculations. A calculation group is required as a default in the inventory management parameter form or directly in the released product details form. AX looks for the calculation group set up in this form first, and if a calculation group does not exist, it looks in the setup in the inventory management parameters form. If calculation group cannot be found, an error appears during calculation. Calculation groups can also be associated to individual products. Keep in mind that you need to set up calculation groups before running the calculation. Let's switch over to AX and we'll create one together. Calculation groups are found in Inventory Management, underneath Setup, Costing, and then Calculation Groups. We'll create a new one called Demo. I'll give it a name. Then, on the Setup tab, I'll need to select the options. In the cost price model, several options are available. The first one is item cost price. This is the cost price from the released product table or the item dimensions combination as the cost price. Next option is the item purchase price. This is the purchase price from the released product list page that's shown on the cost price field on the purchase tab. Next are trade agreements. Trade agreements can be configured for specific item and vendor combinations or for specific sites. When you create a trade agreement for the purchase price with the item and site, that will be used when the trade agreement option is selected here. The last option is inventory price. The current inventory value for the item is used to calculate the unit cost in the BOM calculation. A unit cost price is only calculated if the posted quantity and the physical quantity are more than 0. For our example, we'll go with the item cost price. Then you'll want to select the alternate cost price. The alternate cost price contains the same options as the cost price model. This field, however, is only used when a price cannot be found in the primary cost price. So I'll select trade agreement as my option. Next, we'll need to select how we want sales prices to be calculated. In the drop-down box, you have two options. One is based on the cost group. When this option is selected, the sales price is calculated based on the cost price and the profit setting percentage from the cost group. The next option is the item sales price. This is the sales price from the Release Product table on the Sell Fast tab of the form. Next is the Stop Explosion checkbox. You'll leave the Stop Explosion checkbox cleared. However, when you select this checkbox, it indicates that a manufactured item must be treated as a purchase component rather than as a manufactured component for a BOM calculation purpose. The item's cost can still be calculated by using BOM calculations depending on the site. The explosion of the planned purchase and production orders will be stopped at the BOM whose components are associated with the calculation group for which the Stop Explosion checkbox is selected. Master scheduling generates the planned orders on the BOM itself and not on the items included in that BOM. By marking this checkbox, you're basically saying items with this particular calculation group will not have a cost added into the BOM calculation. Next, on the Warnings Fast tab, you'll want to select the options for any warnings that you want to be issued to the user when they're making a BOM calculation. For example, you can mark the No BOM checkbox to generate a warning if there is no active BOM version found for one of the components or the parent item that you are running the BOM calculation for. The No Route checkbox is used to generate a warning if no active route version is found. If you're using resources on your routes and operations, you can tell the system to check for those, and if a resource is not found on each line in the active route, a warning message can be thrown to the user. Next, you can verify and check for consumption. Consumption is the quantity in a particular route. This typically represents the amount of time that's required to perform a specific operation for a production process. Next, you can check to see if an item has no cost price. If there is no active cost price for an item, this means that no cost will be added into the BOM calculation. We'll select this checkbox. You can also check and verify the age of the cost price. For my example, we'll type in 60, which is the number of days after which the unit cost price must be reevaluated. If this value is met, the system generates a warning. So basically, if I have a cost price for an item, however, it was entered in January of this year, and it's now August, that is more than 60 days, so a warning message would be thrown when the BOM calculation is executed. Next, you can enter in a percentage into the minimum contribution margin field. This will indicate at what point the minimum contribution margin is not being met. If the contribution margin for the particular component is not met, a warning will be thrown to the user. This will make sure that you're not undercutting the costs and the additional carrying costs that might be required for your particular items. Because calculation groups are required to run calculations, we need to set up a new one as the default in inventory management parameters. This setup enables companies to have a standard cost group and profit setting for all items. Then, if an item has special calculation requirements, the user can assign a calculation group to the item. You can typically set calculation groups on BOM component items instead of BOM items. However, when warnings are displayed, calculation groups can be applied. When assigned to items, the calculation group overrides the default value that is set up in the inventory management parameters. Let's go back to AX and I'll show you this. Let's start by looking at the default parameter. This is found in Inventory and Warehouse Management, underneath Setup, and then Inventory and Warehouse Management Parameters. Next, we'll click the Bill of Materials tab, and here you can see the calculation group field. We'll go ahead and change this to use our calculation group. Now that we've configured the default, we can begin to override this value on items. So let's do that now. We'll go into Product Information Management, and then open the Released Products form. We'll select the item that we want to configure, and then we'll click Edit in the Maintain group of the Action pane. Next, we'll need to go down to the Engineer tab, and then here you can see the calculation group. If I wanted to use a different calculation group for this particular item, I can select it by clicking on the drop-down and switching it back to the standard option. Now, all items will be using the new configuration, but the items that I switch back to the standard configuration will use the settings according to that particular calculation group. Next, we'll take a look at how we can create costing versions and BOM calculations.